The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as families walked past kennel number 7 without stopping. Luna lay in the corner, her golden fur matted, her brown eyes tracking each person who glanced at her medical chart, and kept moving. The shelter volunteer had tried 3 times to coax her closer to the front of the kennel, but Luna wouldn't budge. She'd learned that hope was more painful than staying still. Large breed, 8 years old, special medical needs. A woman read aloud to her husband. Their daughter, maybe 6 years old, pressed her face against the chain link. "Mommy, this one's pretty." The mother pulled her back gently. "Sweetie, we talked about this. We want a puppy, remember? One that can grow up with you." Luna's tail didn't move as they walked away. She'd heard some version of that conversation 43 times in the past 6 weeks. 43 families, 43 rejections. The shelter manager, Mrs. Patterson, had stopped making excuses for her. The clipboard hanging outside Luna's kennel told the truth in stark medical terminology. Severe smoke inhalation, permanent lung damage, crushed left front leg requiring surgery, ongoing medication, $600 monthly, adoption fee waived due to special circumstances. But before the medical chart, before the concrete kennel and the pitying looks, Luna had been something else entirely. She'd been a legend, and really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Because this story, as heartbreaking as it gets, needs to be heard. 4 years earlier, Luna had stood on a makeshift stage at FEMA's Western Region headquarters in Sacramento, a medal around her neck and flashbulbs popping. She was 3 years old then, the youngest dog ever to receive FEMA's search and rescue commendation. Beside her stood Sarah Martinez, 34, her handler and partner, wearing a uniform crisp enough to reflect the camera lights. Sarah's hand rested on Luna's head, and if you looked closely at the photo that ran in the Sacramento Bee, you could see Sarah's fingers trembling slightly. Pride and pressure in equal measure. "This dog has an extraordinary nose," the FEMA coordinator had said into the microphone that day. In 18 months, Luna has participated in 12 disaster deployments. She's located 47 survivors. 47 people are alive today because of this golden retriever. The audience applauded. Luna's tail wagged. She didn't understand medals or speeches, but she understood Sarah's emotions, and Sarah was happy. That was enough. Their partnership had started almost by accident. Sarah had been a FEMA coordinator for 6 years, managing logistics and paperwork. When her marriage fell apart, the divorce was ugly. He got the house, she got the debt and sole custody of their 2 kids, Maya and Joshua, ages 8 and 5. Sarah needed something to change, needed to feel useful in a way that transcended spreadsheets and conference calls. She applied for the K-9 handler program on a Tuesday night after putting the kids to bed, half drunk on cheap wine and wholly desperate for meaning. Luna had been the puppy nobody wanted from the training program. Too friendly, they said. Too gentle. Search and rescue dogs needed drive, aggression, the ability to work through chaos without getting distracted. Luna failed her first evaluation because she stopped searching to comfort a crying child during the drill. Sarah had watched that evaluation, watched Luna press her nose against the little girl's hand, watched the child stop crying and hug the dog, and Sarah thought, "That's not failure. That's exactly what we need." She requested Luna specifically. The trainers warned her, "You'll never make it through certification with that dog." But they didn't understand what Sarah understood, what only someone who'd held her own crying children through a divorce could understand. Empathy wasn't weakness. It was a different kind of strength. They certified together 8 months later, and they became family. The first real test came on a Tuesday in March. A mudslide in Northern California had buried a residential area under 12 feet of debris. Sarah and Luna deployed at dawn, the helicopter blades drowning out everything except the drumbeat of Sarah's heart. Luna wore her orange search vest, her nose already twitching toward the ground as they touched down. "Grid section, Echo," the incident commander barked, pointing to a map. 3 homes confirmed occupied when it hit. "Move fast. Weather's turning." Sarah clipped Luna's lead, and they moved into the rubble field. The smell was overwhelming: mud, gas, splintered wood, and underneath it all, something Luna's nose could parse that humans couldn't. The scent of life. She pulled Sarah left, then right. zigzagging through debris that shouldn't have been navigable. Sarah's radio crackled with updates from other teams finding nothing, nothing, nothing. Then Luna froze. Her entire body went rigid, nose pointed toward a collapsed garage. "Alert!" Sarah called into her radio. Her heart hammered. "I have an alert." The rescue team converged. They dug for 40 minutes. 40 minutes of Luna never moving, never breaking her focus. Sarah whispering, "Good girl. Good girl. Stay with me," until they heard it. A voice, faint. A woman trapped in a pocket beneath a crushed Camry. Mrs. Chen, 74 years old, diabetic. She'd been there for 16 hours. They pulled her out alive. And when the paramedics loaded her onto the stretcher, she reached out a shaking hand toward Luna. "The dog," she whispered. "Tell the dog thank you." Sarah guided Luna over, and Mrs. Chen's fingers brushed through golden fur. "You found me," the woman said. "When everyone else gave up, you found me." Luna licked her hand once, gentle as a prayer. That was the first life. 46 more would follow. Over 3 years, Luna and Sarah deployed to hurricanes in Florida, floods in Texas, tornadoes in Oklahoma, and 2 more earthquakes in California. They spent weeks away from home. Sarah video calling Maya and Joshua every night from hotel rooms and disaster command centers. "Mommy's helping people," she'd tell them, trying to ignore how Maya's face fell each time Sarah said she needed just a few more days, trying to ignore the guilt that carved deeper grooves with each deployment. But Luna never wavered. She worked through rain, heat, darkness, chaos. She climbed through collapsed buildings and scrambled across unstable debris. She found the elderly woman under the collapsed nursing home in Miami, the teenage boy trapped in a storm cellar in Arkansas, the family of 4 huddled in their bathroom while the rest of their house spun away in a tornado. Each time Luna's nose knew. Each time Sarah trusted her. Each time they brought someone home. "She's got the best nose in the program," another handler told Sarah once over coffee at 2 a.m. during a hurricane deployment. "You're lucky." Sarah had looked at Luna, asleep on her feet, with her vest still on, too exhausted to even lie down properly. "I know," Sarah said. "I don't know what I'd do without her." She would find out. The 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit Northern California at 4:47 a.m. on a Thursday in October. Sarah and Luna deployed 6 hours later, part of the first wave team sent to the city of Oak Ridge. Population 23,000, now largely in ruins. The downtown area had collapsed, old brick buildings folding in on themselves like paper, a parking garage pancaked to 3 stories of crushed concrete and steel. "We've got 17 confirmed trapped in the garage," the incident commander said, voice hoarse from shouting orders. "Cell phone pings putting them in the northwest section, lower levels. It's unstable as hell. Aftershocks every 20 minutes. We need noses in there now before it comes down completely." Sarah looked at Luna. The dog was already watching her, waiting for the command. 7 years old now, gray starting to show on her muzzle, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. "You ready, girl?" Luna's tail wagged once. "Ready." They went in with 2 other teams, 6 handlers, 6 dogs, and a structural engineer who kept muttering, "This is insane. This is insane," as they navigated through the collapsed levels. The concrete groaned overhead. Rebar yutted like broken bones. Somewhere in the darkness, someone was crying for help. Luna led them deeper, past 2 crushed SUVs and through a gap barely wide enough for Sarah to squeeze through. The engineer's flashlight swept across support columns cracked like eggshells. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before the next aftershock," he said. "If it hits while we're in here," Luna alerted. Hard. She sat down abruptly, every muscle tense, staring at a mountain of debris ahead. "Here," Sarah called. "I've got an alert." The team converged. They could hear voices now, multiple people, trapped together. "We see your lights," someone shouted from within the debris. "There's 5 of us. Please, please, my daughter, she's only 10. The engineer assessed the pile. "We have to clear from the top. Carefully. If we pull the wrong piece." An aftershock hit. The world jerked sideways. Concrete screamed. Sarah grabbed Luna's vest and pulled her back as a support beam overhead cracked with a sound like a gunshot. Someone yelled, "Out!" Everybody out. But there were still people trapped, and Luna was pulling forward, toward them. Every instinct in her bred and trained body screaming to finish the mission. To find. To save. Sarah made a choice. "Go!" she shouted to the other teams. "Get clear!" "We're staying." "Sarah, that's suicide." "Go." They went. They had to. The structure was coming down. Sarah and Luna were alone in the darkness with 5 people trapped, and 30 seconds before the ceiling killed them all. "Luna, seek." The dog lunged forward, squeezing through a gap in the debris that Sarah couldn't follow. Sarah heard her moving on the other side, heard her paws scrabbling against concrete, heard her bark, the sharp, specific bark that meant, "I found them. Here. Right here." Sarah pulled at the debris with her bare hands, ignoring the steel cutting her palms, ignoring the blood, ignoring everything except the sound of Luna's bark and the crying child on the other side. She got one piece free, then another, creating a gap just wide enough. Luna squeezed back through, the collar of a small jacket in her teeth. Behind her, being pulled, was a 10-year-old girl, sobbing and terrified but alive. Sarah grabbed the girl, handed her to the structural engineer who'd come back despite everything, and Luna went back in. 4 more times. 4 more people. Luna pulling them through gaps, guiding them, refusing to leave even as the structure groaned and swayed. Sarah on the outside, pulling them free, sending them to safety. 20 seconds between each rescue. 15. 10. The 5th person was through when the final aftershock hit. Sarah saw it happen in horrible slow motion. The support beam cracked completely. The ceiling section directly above Luna began to fall. Sarah screamed her name, lunged forward, grabbed Luna's vest, and pulled with everything she had. The concrete slab came down. Sarah yanked Luna, clear, mostly clear, but the edge of the slab caught Luna's left front leg, and there was a sound that Sarah would hear in nightmares for the rest of her life. The crunch of bone. Luna's yelp of pain. Then the entire section collapsed and they were running, stumbling. Sarah half carrying Luna, as the darkness behind them filled with dust and destruction. They made it out. Barely. Sarah collapsed 20 feet from the garage. Luna cradled in her arms. The dog was whimpering, her left leg bent at an angle that legs shouldn't bend, blood soaking through her orange vest. Sarah's own hands were destroyed, sliced to ribbons, but she didn't feel it. She could only stare at Luna, at the pain in those brown eyes, and whisper, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The paramedics tried to take Luna. Sarah wouldn't let go. "Ma'am, we need to get her to the veterinary trauma team. I go with her." "Ma'am, I go with her." They set up the veterinary triage in a parking lot 3 blocks away. 18 injured search dogs from the deployment, but Luna was the worst. The vet, a young woman who looked too tired to cry anymore, examined Luna's leg and looked up at Sarah with eyes full of sorrow. "It's bad," she said quietly. "Compound fracture. The bone's shattered. I can try to save the leg, but it's going to be multiple surgeries. Months of recovery. And even then, she didn't finish. She didn't have to. Even then, she'll never pass recertification." Sarah finished. The vet nodded. "But she'll survive? She can have a normal life? With treatment, yes. But the surgery alone is $8,000, and that's before the medications, the physical therapy, the follow-ups. FEMA covers working dogs, but once she's retired." The vet stopped, looked away. "I'm sorry. I know, that's not what you want to hear." Sarah looked down at Luna. The dog was panting through the pain, but when she felt Sarah's eyes on her, her tail thumped weakly against the exam table. Still trying to be good, still trying to make Sarah happy. "Do the surgery," Sarah said. "Whatever it takes, do it." The vet's expression was a mixture of relief and concern. "The bill, I'll figure it out." But she didn't figure it out. Luna's surgery took 11 hours. The veterinary surgeon managed to save the leg, installing titanium pins, and a plate to hold the shattered bones together. The post-op report was cautiously optimistic. Patient stable, prognosis for limited mobility good, but will require extensive physical therapy and lifelong medication for pain management and inflammation. Monthly medication costs estimated at $600. Follow-up appointments recommended every 3 months at $200 per visit. Patient will never return to active search and rescue work. Sarah sat in the vet hospital's waiting room, Luna recovering in the back, and did the math on her phone calculator. $8,000 for the surgery, $600 a month for meds, $7,200 a year. Follow-up appointments, $800 a year. Total, $16,000 the first year alone, $8,000 every year after. Sarah's FEMA salary was $52,000 a year. After taxes, rent, child support, utilities, groceries, Maya's asthma medication, Joshua's speech therapy, and her student loan payments, she cleared $400 a month. If she stopped buying anything unnecessary, if she cut every possible corner, she might be able to scrape together $200 more. It wasn't enough. She called her ex-husband. I need help with the kids for a few months. I need to pick up extra shifts, maybe do some weekend deployments to bring in more money. You want me to take more custody so you can work more? His voice dripped with the same contempt that had characterized the last year of their marriage. What kind of mother? There's a dog's life at stake. Then put it down, Sarah. Jesus Christ. It's a dog. She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped the phone twice. Luna came home 3 weeks later, hobbling on 3 legs with the 4th in a brace. Maya and Joshua were gentle with her, sitting on the floor of their small apartment and letting Luna rest her head in their laps. Is she going to be okay, Mommy? Maya asked. She's going to be fine, Sarah lied. Because what else could she say? That their tiny apartment barely fit the 3 of them, let alone a large dog recovering from major surgery? That she'd maxed out 2 credit cards to cover the surgery and still owed $3,200? That she woke up at 2 a.m. every night with her heart pounding, doing the math over and over? And it never worked out. The letter from FEMA came 6 weeks after the earthquake. Due to recent budget restructuring and the completion of the Oak Ridge disaster recovery operation, we are consolidating our Western Region K-9 units. Effective December 1st, your position is being relocated to our headquarters in Washington, D.C. Please confirm your acceptance of the transfer by November 15th. Washington, D.C. 3,000 miles from her kid's school, from her mother who helped with childcare, from everything. The letter included relocation assistance $4,000, which wouldn't even cover the first month's rent in D.C. Sarah read the letter 3 times. Then she called her supervisor. I can't transfer, Sarah said. I'm a single mother, my kids. I understand, Sarah. I really do. But if you decline the transfer, it's considered a voluntary resignation. There are no other handler positions available in California right now. What about Luna? A pause. What about her? She's my partner. She's been my partner for 4 years. What happens to her when I resign? Another pause. Longer this time. FEMA only provides support for active working dogs. Luna's medically retired. She's technically your personal responsibility now. But the medical bills, I'm sorry, Sarah. That's policy. If you can't take her with you. The supervisor didn't finish. She didn't have to. Sarah sat on her kitchen floor that night, Luna sleeping beside her, and cried until she couldn't breathe. The next day, she called the Northern California Search and Rescue Dog Association. They ran a small adoption program for retired working dogs, matching them with handlers or families who understood their special needs. We'll do our best to find her a home, the coordinator promised. But I need to be honest. 7-year-old dogs with major medical expenses don't get a lot of interest. Most people want younger dogs with fewer complications. She saved 47 lives, Sarah said, and her voice broke. I know, and we'll tell everyone that. But, the coordinator sighed, just be prepared. It might take a while. It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of Luna sleeping in Sarah's apartment, getting physical therapy, at the low-cost clinic that gave Sarah a discount because they'd seen Luna on the news. 6 weeks of Sarah working double shifts when she could, barely sleeping, watching the debt pile higher. 6 weeks of Maya asking why mommy looked so sad all the time, and Sarah trying to smile and lie convincingly. The call came on a Tuesday. "We haven't found a private adoption," the coordinator said gently. "But the Oak Ridge County Animal Shelter has agreed to take her. They have experience with special needs animals, and they'll make sure she finds a good home." Sarah knew what that meant. County shelters in California were overcrowded. Luna wouldn't be euthanized immediately, but if she didn't get adopted within a reasonable time frame, she had to turn down the DC transfer 2 days later. Couldn't afford the move. Couldn't bring Luna. Couldn't abandon her kids. FEMA accepted her resignation with a form letter, thanking her for her service. On a Saturday morning in December, Sarah loaded Luna into her car. Maya and Joshua had said goodbye the night before, both of them crying, not really understanding why Luna had to go. "She's going to find a new family who can take better care of her," Sarah had explained, hating herself for every word. "We'll visit her, I promise." Another lie. She couldn't afford the gas money to visit Oak Ridge regularly. The shelter staff were kind. They took Luna's medical records, her favorite blanket, the orange search and rescue vest that she'd worn during every deployment. "We'll put her story on our website," a young volunteer said brightly. "People love hero dogs. I'm sure she'll get adopted quickly." Sarah walked Luna to the kennel. Kennel number 7. Concrete floor, chain link walls, a thin pad for sleeping. Luna looked up at her, confused. This wasn't home. Where were Maya and Joshua? Where was the apartment that smelled like them? The blanket she slept on? The food bowl in the kitchen? Sarah knelt down. Her hands shook as she cupped Luna's face. The dog's brown eyes were trusting. Completely trusting. Even now. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered. I tried, I'm sorry." Luna licked her face. Her tail wagged. "It's okay. You're upset, but it's okay. I'm here." Sarah had to pry Luna's paws off her shoulders when she stood to leave. The volunteer closed the kennel door. Sarah walked away without looking back, because if she looked back, she would never be able to leave. And she had to leave. She had 2 children to feed and rent to pay and a life that was falling apart. And she couldn't save everyone. She couldn't even save herself. And Luna was just the one who'd saved 47 people when it mattered. Luna stopped eating on the 3rd day. The shelter staff tried everything: wet food, treats, hand feeding, different bowls. Luna just lay in the corner of her kennel and watched the door, waiting. On the 6th day, Mrs. Patterson, the shelter manager, added a note to Luna's medical chart. Depression suspected. Monitor closely. The families came and went. An older couple interested in a calm senior dog took one look at Luna's medical expenses and moved on. A man who'd seen Luna's story on the news came specifically for her, but when he learned she needed $600 in monthly medications and couldn't run or hike anymore, he hesitated. "I was hoping for more of a active companion," he said apologetically. A family with 3 kids under 6 loved Luna immediately, but their landlord didn't allow large breed dogs. A woman in her 20s fell in love but worked 60 hours a week. "I don't have time for the vet appointments she needs." A retired veteran wanted to adopt her, but his disability check wouldn't cover the medical costs. 43 visits, 43 rejections. Luna stopped hoping. The adoption event was on a Saturday. Mrs. Patterson had organized it herself, inviting families to come meet all the adoptable dogs, setting up bowls of treats and toys, desperately trying to clear space in an overcrowded facility. Luna's kennel had a poster next to it, her photo from the FEMA award ceremony. A list of her accomplishments. Hero, dog needs loving, home, in red letters. The families walked past. "Too old. Look at those medical bills. What would we even do with a crippled dog?" Mrs. Patterson stood by Luna's kennel, wringing her hands. The shelter had a 3-month policy for special needs animals. Luna had been there 6 weeks. If she didn't get adopted in the next 6 weeks, at 4:30 p.m., a little girl walked in. She was 9 years old, Asian American, with her black hair in 2 ponytails, and a serious expression that made her look older than her years. She wore a purple backpack that looked too heavy for her small frame. Behind her came her parents, her father in hospital scrubs, her mother in a teacher's cardigan, both looking exhausted in the way that parents of young children always looked exhausted. The girl walked straight past the puppies, past the younger dogs, past the kennels with the friendly dogs pressing against the chain link and wagging their tails. She walked directly to kennel number 7, and she stopped. Luna was lying in her corner facing the wall. She didn't even lift her head. The girl knelt down slowly. "Luna?" she whispered. At the sound of her name, Luna's ear twitched. She turned her head slightly. The girl's mother caught up, slightly out of breath. "Emma." "Honey, there are other dogs." "This one," Emma said firmly. "This is the one." Mrs. Patterson approached, her practice shelter staff smile already fading into the expression she used to let people down gently. "That's Luna. She's a wonderful dog, but she has some special needs. The medical costs." "I know," Emma interrupted. She was unzipping her purple backpack. "I've been saving." From inside the backpack, she pulled out a plastic sandwich bag. Inside were bills and coins, carefully organized. Tens and fives and ones. Quarters, in rolls. "I have $127. Mrs. Patterson's eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. She knelt down next to Emma. "Sweetheart, that's very generous. But Luna's medical bills are $600 every month. Just for her medicine. Every month." Emma's face crumpled. "But I saved. For 2 years." Her father stepped forward, his hand on Emma's shoulder. Dr. James Chen, according to the hospital ID badge still clipped to his scrubs. He looked at his wife. And something passed between them, an entire conversation in a glance. "Emma," Dr. Chen said quietly. "Why this dog?" Emma's hands were shaking as she held the bag of money. When she spoke, her voice came out small and tight. "Because she found Grandpa." Mrs. Patterson's head snapped up. "Wait, the earthquake." In October, Emma's words came faster now, tumbling over each other. "Grandpa was visiting us from Taiwan. He went to the store downtown to buy me birthday presents. The earthquake happened. He was in the parking garage. They said nobody could get to him. They said he'd been there too long. But she found him." Emma pointed at Luna. "This dog." She squeezed through a hole and pulled people out, and Grandpa was one of them. "The firefighters told us. They said we were lucky there were still search dogs working even after the aftershocks because most of the teams had pulled out, but this one dog and her handler stayed." Emma's mother, Mrs. Chen, had tears streaming down her face. "We had 6 more months with him before his heart gave out. 6 months to say goodbye properly. 6 months because of her. Grandpa made me promise," Emma said. "Before he died. He showed me her picture in the newspaper. The one on that poster there," he said. "Emma, if you ever see this dog, if she ever needs help, you promise me you'll help her. Because heroes shouldn't end up alone." Emma looked up at her parents. "I've been saving every birthday dollar, every allowance, every lucky money from every holiday. Because promises matter." Dr. Chen looked at Luna. The dog had stood up now, limping to the front of the kennel, her brown eyes fixed on Emma. Her tail wagged slowly, hesitantly, like she'd almost forgotten how. $600 a month for medication?" Dr. Chen asked Mrs. Patterson. "Yes, sir. Plus follow-up vet visits every 3 months. About $200 per visit." Dr. Chen did the math in his head. $7,200 a year. He was an ER physician, he could afford it. They weren't rich, but they could afford it. But that wasn't really what he was calculating. What he was calculating was the value of his daughter's promise, the weight of teaching her that keeping your word mattered more than convenience, the worth of honoring a man who'd spent his last months reminding his granddaughter that compassion wasn't conditional on ease. "We'll take her," Dr. Chen said. Mrs. Patterson's hand flew to her mouth. Are you sure? The costs. I'm a physician. My wife teaches high school. We can afford it." Dr. Chen smiled slightly. "And my daughter saved for 2 years for this. I think that's a pretty clear sign we're making the right choice. Mrs. Chen knelt next to Emma, wiping her daughter's tears. We'll need to dog-proof the house and learn about her physical therapy routine. And it'll be worth it, Dr. Chen finished. He looked at Mrs. Patterson. What do we need to sign? The adoption paperwork took 15 minutes. Emma sat on the floor by Luna's kennel the entire time, talking to the dog through the chain link. You're going to live with us now. We have a backyard, not huge, but it's got grass. And I'll walk you every day after school. And Mom said you can sleep in my room if you want. And Dad's going to call the vet tomorrow to make sure we understand all your medicines. When Mrs. Patterson opened the kennel door, Luna stepped out slowly, her braced leg making her gait uneven. She walked directly to Emma and sat down. Emma wrapped her arms around Luna's neck and buried her face in golden fur. I kept my promise, Grandpa, Emma whispered. Luna's tail wagged. They left the shelter at 5:47 p.m. Emma held Luna's leash, while Dr. Chen carried the bag with Luna's blanket and medical records. Mrs. Chen walked ahead to pull the car up. As they walked out, Mrs. Patterson stood at the shelter door, openly crying, waving goodbye. In the car, Luna lay across the back seat with her head in Emma's lap. Emma's hand stroked the soft fur between Luna's ears, over and over, rhythmic and soothing. You're going home now, Emma said. You're going home, for the first time in 6 weeks. Luna fell asleep. The first night at the Chen house, Luna wouldn't leave Emma's side. She followed the girl from room to room, limping along on 3 legs, her brown eyes never leaving Emma's face. When Emma went to bed, Luna lay on the floor beside her, close enough that Emma could reach down and touch her. Emma's hand hung off the bed, her fingers buried in Luna's fur. And that was how Mrs. Chen found them at midnight when she checked on her daughter, both of them sleeping peacefully for the first time since very different tragedies had upended their worlds. The first week was adjustment. Dr. Chen called the veterinarian first thing Monday morning, getting detailed instructions on medication schedules, physical therapy exercises, warning signs to watch for. Mrs. Chen researched FEMA search and rescue dogs online, reading everything she could find about Luna's career, showing Emma the news articles about the 47 people Luna had saved. Look, honey, Mrs. Chen said, pointing to her laptop screen. This article says she found a family trapped in a collapsed building during Hurricane Maria. 4 people, 2 parents, and 2 children. The kids were 7 and 9. She paused. Your age? Emma read the article carefully. Then she went and found Luna, asleep on the living room rug, and sat down beside her. She didn't say anything. She just sat there, her hand on Luna's side, feeling the rise and fall of breath. That weekend, they took Luna to her follow-up appointment. The veterinarian, Dr. Ramirez, examined her carefully, checking the healing leg, listening to her lungs, reviewing the medication log that Dr. Chen had meticulously maintained for the past 7 days. She's doing well, Doctor, Ramirez said, surprised. Better than I would have expected, honestly. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. We're not doing anything special, Dr. Chen said. Dr. Ramirez looked at Luna, at the way the dog's eyes followed Emma around the exam room, at the relaxed set of her shoulders. You're giving her what she needed most, the vet said. Stability, routine, someone who's not going to leave. Emma had been quiet during the exam, but now she spoke up. Is she in pain? From her leg? Dr. Ramirez crouched down to Emma's level. She has some pain, yes. That's why we give her medicine. But it's manageable. She won't be able to run or jump like she used to. But she can walk. She can play gently. She can have a good life. Dogs are resilient. They adapt. Can she still work? Emma asked. Like, could she still find people if there was another earthquake? The vet's expression softened. Her nose still works perfectly. But her body can't do the job anymore. She'd want to. Emma nodded slowly, processing. That night, she asked her mother, do you think Luna misses it? Searching for people? Mrs. Chen considered carefully. I think she might miss the purpose. Dogs like Luna, they're born to have a job. But honey, she has a new job now. What job? Taking care of you, being your friend, letting you keep a promise to someone you loved. Mrs. Chen smoothed Emma's hair back from her face. That's important work too. The routine settled. Emma woke up at 6:30 every morning. Did Luna's morning exercises with her gentle stretches, slow walks around the backyard, weight-shifting exercises to strengthen the healing leg. Before school, Emma made sure Luna's water bowl was full, and her medication was laid out for Dr. Chen to administer at noon. After school, Emma did homework on the living room floor with Luna's head in her lap. In the evenings, they took short walks around the neighborhood, never more than 15 minutes, stopping frequently to rest Luna's leg. The other kids in the neighborhood noticed. "Is that a police dog?" a boy asked one afternoon, pointing at Luna's orange vest that Emma had convinced her parents to let Luna wear sometimes. She was a rescue dog, Emma said. For FEMA. She saved 47 people in disasters. Cool, the boy said. Why doesn't she work anymore? Emma's hand tightened on Luna's leash. Because she got hurt saving people during the earthquake. She got hurt being a hero. Oh. The boy looked at Luna with new respect. She's still cool, though. She's the coolest, Emma said firmly. 6 weeks after the adoption, Mrs. Chen got an idea. She taught at Oak Ridge High School, and one of her colleagues mentioned wanting to bring in speakers for their community service unit. What about a presentation on rescue dogs? Mrs. Chen suggested. My daughter's dog is retired. FEMA K9. It could be really impactful. The presentation was on a Wednesday. Emma stood in front of 60 high school students, with Luna sitting beside her, wearing her orange vest. Emma had prepared note cards, had practiced in front of her parents, but now, looking at all those teenage faces, her hands were shaking. This is Luna, Emma started. She's a search and rescue dog. She worked for FEMA for 4 years. She saved 47 people. Emma clicked to the first slide, Luna's award ceremony photo. This was taken 3 years ago. Luna was at the top of her career. She was famous. Everyone wanted to work with her. The next slide showed the earthquake destruction. On October 14th, Luna was deployed to our city after the earthquake. She was searching in the collapsed parking garage downtown. Emma's voice wavered slightly. My grandfather was trapped in that garage. He'd been there for 18 hours. They didn't think anyone could reach him. But Luna did. Click. The next slide showed newspaper clippings from the rescue operations. Luna saved 5 people from that garage, including my grandfather. But while she was saving them, there was an aftershock. Part of the ceiling collapsed on her. She got crushed. Emma paused. Her handler pulled her out, but her leg was shattered. She needed $8,000 in surgery. And after that, she couldn't pass her recertification. So, she got retired. The next slide showed Luna's intake photo from the shelter. The students gasped. Luna looked so different, thin, sad, defeated. She ended up in a shelter, Emma continued, because her handler couldn't afford the medical bills and had to move for a job. Luna was in that shelter for 6 weeks. 43 families looked at her chart and decided she was too expensive, too old, too broken. Emma knelt down beside Luna. The dog looked up at her with those brown eyes. But she wasn't broken. She was a hero who needed help. My grandfather made me promise before he died that if I ever could help her, I would. Because that's what heroes deserve. Emma stood back up. So we adopted her. It costs our family over $7,000 a year for her care. And she's worth every penny. The final slide appeared a photo from last week. Emma and Luna at the park, both of them smiling, Luna's tail mid-wag. Heroes don't stop being heroes just because they can't do the job anymore, Emma said. They just need someone to remember that. Thank you. The students applauded. Several were crying. The teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, wiped her eyes. Does anyone have questions? She asked. A girl in the front row raised her hand. How's Luna doing now? Like, is she happy? Emma looked down at Luna. The dog's tail was wagging at the sound of all the applause. Yeah, Emma said. I think she is. After the presentation, 5 students asked Mrs. Chen for information about service dog retirement organizations. 3 said they wanted to volunteer at the shelter. 1 girl, whose father was a veteran, asked if there were programs for retired military dogs. Mrs. Chen took notes. That night, she talked to Dr. Chen. There's something here, she said. A real need. All these dogs that serve and then get abandoned. You want to start something? Dr. Chen asked, knowing his wife. I'm thinking about it. Within 2 months, they'd established Luna's Legacy Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to helping families adopt and care for retired working dogs. They started small, using donations to subsidize medical costs for adopters, partnering with veterinarians willing to offer discounted care. Emma became the unofficial spokesperson, doing presentations at schools and community events with Luna by her side. The fund helped its first dog 3 months after launching a retired Border Patrol dog with hip dysplasia, then a fire investigation dog with PTSD, then a military working dog with partial blindness. By the end of the first year, they'd helped 23 dogs find homes, and through it all, Luna lived her retirement. She slept in Emma's room every night. She went to the park 3 times a week. She attended every school presentation, wearing her orange vest proudly, letting children pet her gently while Emma told their story. Her leg healed as well as it was going to heal. She'd always limp, would always need medication, but she could walk without pain. On a Saturday in April, 10 months after the adoption, the doorbell rang. Dr. Chen answered it to find a woman in her late 30s, holding a manila folder, her eyes red from crying. I'm sorry to just show up, the woman said. My name is Sarah Martinez. Her voice broke. I was Luna's handler. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. Please, come in. Sarah sat on the couch in the Chen's living room, the manila folder shaking in her hands. Emma was at the kitchen table doing homework when she heard an unfamiliar voice say, Luna's name. She looked up. Luna had been dozing on the living room rug. At the sound of that voice, that specific voice, her head shot up. Her entire body went rigid. Then she was scrambling to her feet, limping across the room as fast as her healing leg would carry her. A sound coming from her throat that Emma had never heard before, joy and heartbreak mixed together. Sarah slid off the couch onto the floor and Luna crashed into her, nearly knocking her over, licking her face, her whole body wiggling, her tail wagging so hard she nearly fell over. Sarah wrapped her arms around Luna's neck and sobbed. I'm sorry, Sarah kept saying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried. I'm sorry. Emma stood frozen in the kitchen, watching. Mrs. Chen appeared beside her, her hand on Emma's shoulder. They both watched Sarah and Luna, watched 4 years of partnership and 6 weeks of abandonment, and 10 months of absence collapse into this single moment of reunion. After several minutes, Sarah managed to compose herself enough to look up at the Chens. I'm sorry for barging in. I saw the article about Luna's Legacy Fund. I saw she was with you. I had to know she was okay. Dr. Chen sat down in the armchair across from her. She's more than okay. She's family. Sarah looked at Emma, still standing in the kitchen. You're the girl from the earthquake, the one whose grandfather. Luna saved my grandpa, Emma said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. So we saved her back. Sarah opened the manila folder with shaking hands. I brought her records, everything from her FEMA career. I thought maybe you'd want them. For your presentations. She pulled out photos, certificates, deployment logs. This is from her first certification test. This is from Miami, during Hurricane Maria. She stopped, staring at a photo of Luna in her prime, standing proud beside Sarah in uniform, both of them muddy and exhausted and triumphant. This is from the day she found 3 children in a collapsed school. Mrs. Chen sat down beside Sarah. What happened? Why did you have to? I couldn't afford her, Sarah said bluntly. The medical bills, they were more than I made. I got transferred across the country, and I couldn't take her with me. I tried everything. I maxed out my credit cards for the surgery. I worked double shifts. She looked at Luna, at the dog still pressed against her side. I tried. I swear to God, I tried. We know, Dr. Chen said gently. We read about the budget cuts, the staffing changes. We understand. Do you? Sarah's voice was sharp. Do you understand what it's like to abandon your partner? To leave her in a shelter because you're too broke to give her what she deserves? To choose between feeding your kids and saving the dog that saved 47 other people? She laughed bitterly. I made my choice. I chose my kids, and I hate myself for it every single day. Emma moved then, crossing from the kitchen to sit on the floor beside Luna. The dog was between them now, Sarah on one side, Emma on the other. You didn't abandon her, Emma said. You did what you had to do, and then we did what we could do. That's not abandonment. That's just how life works sometimes. Sarah stared at this 9-year-old girl with tears streaming down her face. My grandpa used to say that heroes don't always get to finish their own stories, Emma continued. Sometimes other people have to finish it for them. You started Luna's story. You gave her 4 amazing years. You saved her life with that surgery even though it broke you to pay for it. And then you had to let someone else write the next chapter. Emma's hand rested on Luna's head. We're just writing our chapter, but it's all the same story. And it's a good story. Sarah pressed her hands over her face and cried. Mrs. Chen moved to sit beside her, a hand on her shoulder, letting her fall apart in a stranger's living room. Because sometimes that was what people needed permission to break down. When Sarah finally composed herself, she looked at Emma. Can I still visit her sometimes? I live in Sacramento now. I got a job with the State Emergency Management Office. It's only an hour drive. I wouldn't impose. Every third Saturday, Mrs. Chen said immediately. Come for lunch. Let Emma tell you about Luna's latest adventures. Let Luna remember she had 2 families who loved her, not just one. Sarah nodded, unable to speak. That became their routine. Once a month, Sarah drove to Oak Ridge. She'd arrive at 11 a.m., and Luna would go ballistic at the sound of her car, would be waiting at the door, would crash into Sarah the moment she walked in. They'd have lunch together, Sarah and the Chens and Emma and Luna. Sarah would tell stories about Luna's working days, about deployments and rescues and close calls. Emma would tell stories about Luna's retirement, about physical therapy victories and school presentations, and the quiet joy of having a dog who slept beside your bed every night. Luna would sit between them, her head swiveling back and forth, her tail never stopping, her entire body radiating the contentment of a dog who understood she was loved by everyone in the room. After lunch, Sarah would take Luna for a walk, just the 2 of them, a brief moment to reconnect. Then she'd say goodbye, would kneel down and cup Luna's face and say, Be good, girl. And Luna's tail would wag, and Sarah would drive away. And Emma would find Luna standing at the window, watching Sarah's car disappear, and would say, She'll be back next month. And Luna would turn and follow Emma to her room, to her spot on the floor beside the bed, to the life she had now. Luna's legacy fund grew. The article about Sarah's visit went viral. Former handler reunites with retired FEMA dog she couldn't afford to keep, and donations poured in. Within 2 years, they'd helped 127 retired working dogs find homes. They established a medical fund that covered up to 50% of care costs for adopters. They partnered with veterinary schools to provide discounted services. They lobbied the state legislature to create a formal retirement program for working dogs. Emma did a presentation for California's Senate Committee on Public Safety. She was 11 years old, wearing her best dress, with Luna sitting beside her in the hearing room. Luna served for 4 years, Emma told the assembled senators. She saved 47 lives. She got injured protecting people during a disaster, and then our system abandoned her because nobody wanted to pay for her care. This isn't just about Luna. This is about thousands of dogs who serve and sacrifice and then get treated like used equipment instead of living beings who gave everything for us. The bill passed 6 months later. The Service Animal Retirement Act established a state fund to subsidize medical care for retired police, fire, and search and rescue dogs. It wasn't perfect, the funding was limited. The bureaucracy was messy, but it was something. It was a start. At the bill signing, the governor specifically thanked Emma Chen and her dog Luna, whose story reminded us all that heroism deserves honor, not just during service, but after. Luna was 13 years old when her health started declining. The arthritis in her leg worsened despite medication. Her breathing became labored, the lung damage from the earthquake catching up with her. She stopped eating regularly. Dr. Chen adjusted her medications, consulted with Dr. Ramirez, but they both knew what was coming. Emma knew too. She was 15 now, old enough to understand that love meant letting go when holding on became cruelty. On a Tuesday in June, Luna couldn't stand up. She tried. Emma watched her try, watched her body tremble with effort, watched the determination in her eyes, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. Dr. Chen carried her to the car. They drove to Dr. Ramirez's office in silence. Emma in the back seat with Luna's head in her lap, her fingers stroking golden fur that had gone almost completely gray. Dr. Ramirez examined Luna gently. Her quality of life is gone, the vet said quietly. She's in pain, constant pain. The medications aren't helping anymore. Emma nodded. She'd known. She'd known for days, but hadn't wanted to say it out loud. She's had a good life, Dr. Ramirez continued. 6 years with you. That's 6 years she wouldn't have had otherwise. 6 years of love and comfort and purpose. You gave her that. It wasn't enough time, Emma whispered. It never is, Mrs. Chen said, her own voice breaking. They called Sarah. She made the drive in 45 minutes, speeding the entire way. She burst into the examination room, and Luna's tail wagged weakly, one final time. Sarah knelt on the floor beside the examination table where Luna lay. Emma knelt on the other side. Dr. Chen stood behind his daughter, his hands on her shoulders. Mrs. Chen held the bag with Luna's orange vest, the one she'd worn during every deployment, every presentation, every moment she needed to remember who she'd been. Dr. Ramirez prepared the injection. Take all the time you need, she said. Sarah and Emma each held one of Luna's paws. They stayed there for 20 minutes, neither of them speaking, both of them crying. Luna's breathing ragged and painful, her brown eyes moving between the two faces she'd loved most in her life. Finally, Emma nodded. Dr. Ramirez administered the sedative first. Luna's breathing eased. The pain left her eyes. She looked at Emma, then at Sarah, and her tail tried to wag one more time. The second injection was quick. Luna took 3 more breaths, and then she was gone. Sarah pressed her face against Luna's fur. Good girl, she sobbed. Good girl. You were the best girl. Emma couldn't speak. She just held Luna's paw, feeling the warmth slowly leave, understanding in a way she never had before, that promises sometimes ended, that love sometimes meant saying goodbye, that heroes didn't always get happy endings, but they got endings surrounded by people who remembered what they'd done, who honored what they'd given, who made their final moments full of love instead of loneliness. They buried Luna in the Chen's backyard, in the shaded corner where she used to lie in the summer, under a memorial stone that read, Luna, FEMA Search and Rescue K9, saved 47 lives, loved by all who knew her, 2017 to 2030. At the memorial service 2 days later, more than 200 people attended, FEMA handlers from across the country, families of people Luna had rescued, volunteers from Luna's Legacy Fund, students from Emma's presentations. Sarah stood with the Chens, all of them wearing orange ribbons pinned to their clothes Luna's color. Emma gave the eulogy. She was 15, poised and trembling, standing in front of microphone with a speech she'd written at 3 a.m. the night before. Luna was a hero, Emma said. But not because she saved 47 people, even though that's amazing. She was a hero because she never stopped trying. When she was in that shelter and nobody wanted her, she kept waiting for someone who would. When her leg was broken and she had to learn to walk again, she did the work. When we asked her to start a second career as a teacher, visiting schools and helping people understand what service means, She did it with the same dedication she'd brought to searching through rubble. Emma paused, collecting herself. My grandfather told me before he died that heroes shouldn't end up alone. Luna didn't. She ended surrounded by people who loved her, who remembered what she'd done, who made sure her last years were full of the same care and devotion she'd always given to everyone else. Emma looked at Sarah, standing in the front row. She had 2 families who loved her. She had a legacy that will help hundreds of other dogs. She had a life that mattered. Emma's voice cracked. And she kept me honest. She made me keep my promise. She taught me that showing up matters, that loyalty isn't just about the easy times, that being a hero isn't about being perfect, it's about doing what's right even when it's hard. She stepped back from the microphone. Mrs. Chen wrapped her arms around her daughter and they cried together. After the service, Sarah and Emma stood by Luna's grave. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Sarah said, "Thank you for finishing her story. I couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't." "You did finish it," Emma interrupted. "You started it and you stayed in it, and you came back every month. That's finishing it. That's showing up." Sarah smiled through tears. "She was lucky to have you." "We were lucky to have her," Emma corrected. 6 months after Luna died, Emma started college. She majored in veterinary medicine with a focus on working dogs. "I'm going to make sure other families can afford to keep their Lunas," she told her parents. Luna's legacy fund continued to grow. By 2035, they'd helped over 400 retired working dogs. The Service Animal Retirement Act had been adopted by 12 states. A federal bill was in committee. Sarah went on to lead California's Emergency Management K-9 program. She made sure every handler knew about Luna's legacy fund, made sure no dog got left behind because of money, made sure the system that had failed Luna didn't fail any other dog. And sometimes, on quiet Saturday mornings, Sarah would drive to Oak Ridge and sit in the Chen's backyard beside Luna's grave. Emma, home from college, would sit beside her. They'd drink coffee and talk about their lives and remember a dog who'd saved 47 people and, in turn, been saved by the promise of a 9-year-old girl who understood that heroes deserved better than abandonment. "She changed everything," Sarah said once. "She did," Emma agreed, "not because she was extraordinary, though she was, but because her story made people pay attention, made them realize these dogs aren't equipment, they're partners, they're family, and family doesn't get left behind." The sun filtered through the trees, warm and golden, the color of a certain dog's fur. Somewhere in the house, Emma's mother was baking. She'd taken up baking after Luna died, said it helped with the grief. The scent of cookies drifted through the open window. "Do you think she knew?" Sarah asked. "At the end? That she mattered?" Emma thought about Luna's final moments. The way her tail had tried to wag, the trust in her brown eyes, the peace in her last breath. "Yeah," Emma said. "I think she knew." And in the shelter across town, in kennel number 7 where Luna had once waited for someone to choose her, a different dog waited now. An 8-year-old German Shepherd, retired from police work, with hip dysplasia and a heart condition, and 0 adoption applications. But on Monday morning, a family would walk in. They'd seen the Luna's Legacy Fund website, had read about the medical subsidies available, had talked to their kids about the responsibility of caring for a senior dog with special needs, and they'd choose her. Because of Luna, because of Emma, because of Sarah, because of a promise kept, and a story told, and the understanding that heroism wasn't a moment, it was a commitment. And that commitment didn't end when the job ended. It extended to making sure every hero got the ending they deserved. Luna's legacy lived on. One dog at a time, one family at a time, one promise at a time. And somewhere, if you believed in such things, a golden retriever with a permanent limp and a heart full of love was finally resting, knowing her work was done, knowing the people she'd saved had turned around and saved so many others, knowing that the orange vest she'd worn with such pride was now worn by dozens of other dogs who'd found homes because of her story. Heroes don't end. They echo. Luna echó it loud.